Hi everyone, welcome back to the Runaways YouTube channel. Today we are taking another look at the Dusk Till Dawn metadata, or meta predictions. I have joining with me Ethan Van Sant, creator of the Dusk Till Dawn tier maker.
Thank you. Yes. It took all my creative juices to build this sucker here. So this is me, Mansant. Happy to be here.
And James Silver, who's like, what are you, like 5th on 90-day XP leaderboards?
Something like that. More importantly, I'm like number 10 on the lifetime. That's what matters.
Yeah, just Armory Crusher. So we're here to kind of talk about kind of re-looking at the tier list. Now, a lot of people, I saw a lot of hate for the hate that I was giving out in the last tier list.
You reap what you sow, Yanji. That's what it's about.
I know, it's true. We put Bravo in like the F category. We have to talk about that. But I think it's pretty interesting. I have pulled up the you can't see like everything. But this is basically Mark Henderson posted. I think he's the guy who does DraftFab. So pretty cool tool that we use on the Discord to run our drafts. But I don't know how he compiled this info. I think you can pull it now via gem on like an API or something.
Yeah, so the European tournaments kind of have this secret hack. Her name is Arlie. She's the creator of Purple Fox, and she is an absolute fiend at like pulling all the data and building out kind of like the live standings and the pairings and all that for all the graphics you see on a lot of the European tournaments, the Purple Fox generated stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume it's probably connected in some capacity to the data she pulls actively to get that all sorted. So I trust it.
Pretty cool. I think this is one of the first times that we've had like a breakdown like this. Usually, I mean, we only look at data for like top 8 or top 32 or whatever, just like based off of final standings. But it's interesting to see kind of how the matchup spreads worked out overall. I just wanted to talk about, I guess, the top like 3 or 4 decks. So unsurprisingly, Lexi has the highest win percentage, although no Lexi's made it to top 8. Has pretty good matchup spreads overall. Bravo, second highest win rate. This was like a little bit confusing to me.
Well, I think it comes down to player quality too. We saw standout names pick up Bravo for this event where I don't think we really expected that going in.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely didn't call Pablo to be on Bravo. I figured maybe Lexi, maybe he's like still in the camp of like play the best deck, but I think he just went back to his roots and played what he enjoys, which is a slower Guardian playstyle, and a lot of people did that apparently.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Jimmy?
Oh, Pablo just loves Bravo. I didn't find that surprising. And he
I
wasn't
didn't
gonna
know that.
play Briar. Just yeah. But like Briar, he can't LL that, so whatever, just go with somebody he knows. Can't play Oldham.
Yeah, he premeditated. He knew he was getting second, so what was the point of bringing Briar if he couldn't actually win the thing? True.
Yeah. I think one thing that we have to change a lot when we go back to the tier list is I think we had Briar pretty high originally, and Briar underperformed considerably. He has like pretty bad matchups into Lexi and apparently into Dromai as well. And then the other hero that I thought was pretty interesting is Azalea is pretty high as well, at 52% win rate.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And Iyslander has also been winning basically everything recently. So that being said, it's time to make a new tier list.
Nice.
Where's the F tier? Where's my F tier?
Yeah. Okay. We're making an F tier. Actually, can we make one?
Yeah, you should be able to click the gear and do row below or something.
Yeah. We're making a.
Oh no.
Call it the Prism tier.
All right, what are we gonna call?
Click your buttons, Yanji. What is going on?
What is going on? I'm gonna call it Mansant's.
All right. First of all, it's not how you spell my name, but thank you.
Classic.
Okay.
All right.
First up, let's go with the winner of the tournament, Iyslander. Where do you think Iyslander kind of stands? Is Iyslander now like the deck to beat?
That's a hard decision because that kind of sets everything for the rest of the tier.
Yeah, because
Like-
I think it does have some merit to talk about the fact that Iyslander has basically won all the CC tournaments since Dust Till Dawn came out, both Battle Hardens and the Calling.
Mhm. Well, there's something you said about the fact that we're calling S the deck to beat. If that's really what's on the pedestal there, then yeah, you need to be ready for Iyslander, because before, like on the early tier list that we were putting out, even Michael Hamilton was saying, well, if the Wizards show up, like, maybe they'll do decent, but it doesn't feel like the meta for him, so that's why she was kind of getting discounted. But now we've seen the results, so people will play it. People do believe in its power again, and it's obviously working. So now you really, on a deck building level, need to be able to beat this deck, or you don't have a shot. So as calling it like the deck to beat feels pretty appropriate, because Iyslander also is a deck that's picked up by really high skill players for the most part.
Yeah.
She's not a bandwagon level hero, so it's crazy to call her S, but like, she is the deck to beat. It's almost like I can't separate the two. So what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like she's probably like actually a B, but I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah, I think
Or, like-
there should be a distinction, right? Like, there's the best deck, and then there's the deck that the meta is kind of shaped around.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't believe that Iyslander is the best deck, but the results kind of speak for themselves, right? Like, you can't keep ignoring Iyslander.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Like, I don't think she is the best deck, but then what's the distinction of like what the best deck is versus the deck to beat? Do we need to redefine like what S is?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at if we go back to the data, basically, like, Lexi is statistically the best deck. It has the highest win rates overall, right?
Mhm.
Has like a really poor, I guess, like Kano Azuri matchup, but everything else is either close to 50%. Like a Bravo is 41%, even though you can make the argument that Bravo decks were kind of teched out to beat Lexi's at the tournament. So I would put him in like their. How do you feel about Lexi and Iyslander being kind of sharing like the two decks that kind of shaped the meta?
Yeah, I know last time we were kind of against putting two decks up there, but it feels fair now, because there is such a distinction of best deck versus like kind of you need a game plan for, you must beat. So it's either Icelander's like solid top of A, or we just do the shared thing.
Yeah.
No big difference.
Okay, let's go over number 2 deck of the calling, Bravo. Where does Bravo fit?
Probably A. Oh yeah,
Oh,
right in the F.
Don't do that.
Man
I'm like
sense.
ready to say F2. Like, I don't believe in this hero at all.
You don't believe in this hero? I think
No.
Bravo's kind of an interesting hero, because Bravo, I would say, as like when most people learn about like what makes like a good Flesh and Blood deck, Bravo doesn't really satisfy a lot of the conditions. However, I think one thing that Bravo has in his favor over any of the other decks is that he has the best fridge in the game currently, because you can play.
Well, Levia.
No, I think it's better than Levias, because like Bravo has access to potentially up to what, like 4 pieces with like Temper or Battle Worn 2 if you were playing Skullcap. Most people play Crown of Providence. Plus you can play Boots. I think Levia is up there, but like Husk is certainly very strong, but is not as flexible as I think like Temper or Battle Worn 2, right?
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Because to match like the 13 value in armor, you'd have to take Scabs and Grasp in Levia, which is not a super common combo. I mean, it's definitely like a way to play some matchups. So if 13 is like the number of fridge, Levia can match it, but sure, it's less flexible.
Yeah.
And there's blood debt attached. It's
Yeah,
different
and then
than-
also like when you have to play into like a couple of ninjas, Fi and Katsu have popped up in popularity. Fi narrowly missing top 8, playing Kadachi's as well as Katsu.
Mhm.
It's just like the armor is a little bit less flexible to deal with those types of attacks. But I think like that's Bravo's kind of advantage, and it's pretty interesting because in Flesh and Blood, like having equipment advantage is pretty powerful because you get access to it every single game. Like you don't have to draw into it. It doesn't matter. Like
Yeah, it's the sip
yeah,
pieces that LSS recently named. Start and play, stays in play.
yeah. So I think that was kind of like the update that I saw a lot of Bravos doing, which is like kind of moving away from just trying to like high roll Anathos and playing Steelberry Buckler. It's like Stalagmite at home, which kind of makes me wonder if Steelbraid Buckler is this good, then surely Stalagmite should have garnered some more attention.
Well, yeah, if you look at Stalagmite and Winter's Whale as just strictly better versions of these cards, like it's crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I kind of agree with you, Ethan. I think that Bravo is on face value not the greatest for like the cards that you're playing, but I think everybody has to find a way to kind of deal with his equipment package. You know what it kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of when I first started playing Flesh and Blood when Monarch just came out. And part of the reason why Chain was just better than everyone else was because his equipment suite was just better than everyone else's.
So much better.
And
still the case in Blitz, by the way. Screw that hero.
and yeah, I think that like because of how powerful equipment is in the game, like I think that a lot of the other heroes that we're going to be talking about, like if they had like one or two better equipment pieces, they would probably just like shoot up in the rankings.
Yeah, it's super fair to call it out that way because when you look at the way, you know, a Bravo Katsu game might be playing out, there's always this life difference that just looks crazy. Like how is the Katsu behind? Like they look like they're still in the game. The difference is the armor pieces. You know, like it's just straight like 12 life difference that the Katsu just doesn't really get to show on board, which always makes those matchups just look so different from a viewer perspective.
Yeah, and then the next hero I wanted to just like put on here was what we pointed out from the tier list. Where do you think Azalea fits in? She hasn't really gotten a lot of attention, like as much attention as the other heroes. Although we did mention when we did the tier list originally that Azalea was pretty interesting, right?
Are we happy with Bravo at A, or is this still in contention?
I'm happy with him at A. Like it's weird. I feel like he's kind of like Iyslander, where like at face value he's probably like a B tier, maybe even C.
Yeah.
But because he can fatigue so well, and you have to not only deck build but also have a plan and skill to get over that he is also like a deck to beat. So I think just on that merit, he's probably an A. Unfortunately, I agree. Bravo sucks. But
you know what you're saying about like most things feeling like they're B tier that's like how this whole format has felt for me. Yeah. I think on the team as well, it's felt pretty similarly other than like Lexi, where most decks just feel like, well, these are decks. You can like you can play them all, but like they're all just kind of in this muddied pile. So in that case, then sure, we can separate Bravo to A because there's definitely going to be a lot of B heroes and because this one has results, but to me feels similarly like A's fine.
Yeah, one thing that I will say about Bravo, I guess the last thing, which kind of I think justifies Bravo being A, at least for the upcoming next set of tournaments, is that we're kind of in a metagame where Bravo's counters are all being pushed out of the metagame currently because of these S tier decks. Like if you think about the decks, they're like pretty good against Bravo. What is it? It's like Rune Blades, like Briar's pretty good, Viscerai's pretty good into Bravo.
Well, Leviah and Iyslander.
Yeah, Leviah.
And a well-built Lexi. I mean, they're still up there.
Yeah, Lexi I think is a question mark into Bravo. Iyslander I think is also... It depends. I believe there are ways that you can build Bravo probably to deal with Iyslander. Like, for example, I think even Oldhim into Iyslander was playable with like a variety of strategies in the past. So I think it's up to the players now to kind of figure that out. But I think more so anything than anything else, like you wouldn't in my opinion, like the aggro kind of trio of the past, Phi, Briar, Viscerai, like these decks are just not very good right now, right? And they're the decks that just kind of beat up on Bravo. Like any deck that like can stack damage.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in that category that are just not quite there yet. We'll get to Dash, but Dash is kind of interesting in that position.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bolton, the stuff that can beat Bravo is just clearly not in the same tier. But I mean, we'll get to Levi as well. But I think she's a bit really problematic matchup for Bravo when played correctly.
Yeah,
and
we'll
built
save
correctly,
we'll
but-
save Levi. We'll save Levi for last.
Okay,
I'll put her here for now.
sure.
Yeah, for Azalea, where do you think she goes? Like
So,
what are Azalea's good and bad matchups?
well, I think it's weird. I think Azalea, like, feels good in a vacuum, but then all the best decks just kind of shit on her. So, like, I don't really want to play the top 3 decks right now. So it would put her into, like, what, B or C? But then, like, against everything else, she feels really good. So I don't know.
I think the case that I think that Lexi's pretty good at, or Lexi is a good matchup for Azalea. Like, I would want to match into Azalea or Lexi's.
I think the two main problems with Azalea, for one, is the Warmonger's tech being something that, I mean, you look at Bravo, you look at Iyslander, they're playing it, obviously. It's a little bit of a way to play into Lexi, for one. And other decks are splashing it, like ninjas. And that really hurts Azalea even more so than, than Lexi, because Azalea is now pretty much just shooting an arrow. Like, their turn is shoot an arrow for 5 on, like, best case, right? And then, like, that buys all the room in the world to slam an Azalea. And if you can slam an Azalea, I mean, a lot of their deck is 2-block, right? Like, you kind of just open a huge window. And even Levi, right, who's an amazing Azalea player, who's put up great results with her, even he has been complaining recently, like on Twitter, about what Warmongers is doing for Azalea. And we saw it happen at the Battle Hardened as well, where he's playing fantastically into, I believe it was a Dromai, and the game looks great. It's a playable game, back and forth, and then Warmongers, and then lose. Like, it destroyed the game. So it's because Warmongers is such a frustrating piece for Azalea specifically, and it's just so prevalent in Iyslander Bravo, and then the ninjas as well.
Yeah.
Even some Levi decks are playing it. I think it's pushing Azalea back down. She really has a hard time against that card. And the other matchup she wants to see, like those, like Briar, Viscerai, like Fies, they're kind of middle tier as well. So Azalea can just kind of feast there, but I don't think she's any better than him. Yeah, see, it's fine.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Jimmy, do you have anything else to add?
No, that was better than what I said. Just same thing, but better articulated.
Because I've warmed up. I had a rock stream all day where all I talked about was swinging 7. Now we're dropping real thoughts.
Okay, let's talk about Dromai, because Dromai, I think we had pegged in the last tier list video as being either, like in the top 3 decks. Where do you think Dromai stands now? I think does having like a Guardian in A tier, does that impact Dromai significantly, do you think?
You would know, Jimmy, on this one.
So, like, it depends on who you're asking, because most people, it's just the illusionist thing. Most people just suck playing illusionist, and most people suck playing. Most people suck playing into it. So Dromai is everyone's favorite matchup and everyone's worst matchup. So
yeah,
I think she's A. If like Guardian is just, did you draw well? No, okay, because Lost in Thought is just so powerful now and so brain dead.
Okay. So you feel like Lost in Thought significantly shifts. So because for example, in the last meta before Dust Till Dawn came out, Oldhim was, in my opinion, like a real big problem matchup for Dromai at the highest levels. I don't think that basically any of the Dromais like really broke through like that matchup against the best Oldhim players.
Well, like if you asked Fino or somebody, like we kind of wanted to find Guardians. Like on one point, it was just a slog to get through, but we had such long inevitability, and like most of the Guardians were just like falling back on, I'm just gonna fatigue you and see if I get there, and we'd be like, no, you're dead.
Yeah.
But then most Dromais couldn't do that, so it's the everyone wants to see Dromai problem.
Yeah, but then I think especially at the very end of the meta, I think most of the Oldhim decks like into the Dromai matchup just devolved into them just like throwing 10 every turn at the Dromai.
Yep, fatigue by damage is something that ended up being pretty scary for the Dromai, because when you're blocking with your block 3s, a lot of those can end up being the dragons you want to play. and that could put you on the ropes a bit. But I think the best Dromai, like we're talking about, still wanted to see it. So I don't see how they can't figure out how to like beat Bravo, right? Like that will happen. I think Fino's even been streaming to kind of show off that matchup. So she feels like a solid A, not really too forced out.
All right, cool. Let's talk about the other decks that were in the top 8. So Katsu, I think, made top 8 as well.
Yeah, 2.
And where do you think that stands? So Katsu is pretty interesting. I think Katsu is kind of like a meta deck to me, where Katsu, I think, can have favorable matchups into like Lexi and Dromai, which certainly probably is like a section of like the highest representation of any given tournament, right? But then when you play Katsu into like Bravo, into Iyslander, I think it can feel a little bit tougher to play those matchups. I have a hard time placing him.
Yeah, Katsu to me, I mean, he's still a puzzle. I have not figured him out, but I really enjoy playing him on the side. I've been trying to stream him recently just to warm up. He, more than any of like the heroes we've looked at yet, I feel like is the one that has the highest variance on the draw still. So that has to bump him down in a tier in and of itself. Like there's still the problem of, well, his deck should be consistent, it should be good, but the Katsu hands are a real problem where, you just don't have your starter, or your turn is, or you're just seeing your cards in the wrong order, and like there go your good descendants or your bonds, or since he's so fragile in kind of the sequence of seeing cards, he needs to not be in the same A level. They are way more consistent than him, but I think he's still a threat, and should be able to target the Dromais pretty well, and then they can build in a way to race the Lexi.
Yeah.
So B, like top of B is, that's safe and sound for him.
Yeah, it's pretty. I would agree with that. Yeah, it's pretty tough, right? Like, what do you think Katsu is missing that would bump him up? Because he certainly has a lot of really powerful cards. Like, Bonds of Eternity is just kind of like a nuts flesh and blood card, right?
Oh yeah, or Bonds of Ancestry.
Or sorry, Bonds of Ancestry. Like what else do you think he's missing?
Well, it's crazy because his card quality in sequence is nuts. He's pulling out the 1-card 8s with the bonds. He's always threatening interaction because of the discard trigger.
Yeah.
But the problem lies in, like, you as the Katsu pilot, the problems become much more evident of, well, this hand's actually not that scary. My opponent thinks it is. So I feel like that's where his power truly lies, is kind of the potential threat, even though it doesn't always pan out. And because of that, they might not really kind of juice him up any more than he is. He got the good cards, right? And since he demands interaction, even when his hands aren't great, I think he's in like a really healthy spot. We're just seeing like the problem of combo and like needing specific cards in sequence just make him too much of just a deck of cards sometimes, like, and not a cohesive deck to compete with the rest. So I think he's fine. Like, I don't think it's really a mix. It's just he's a tad too inconsistent for what you need to beat the top decks, but I don't think that makes him bad. As him making 2 top 8s proves, right?
Yeah, that's true. I feel like if Katsu had some kind of equipment piece that let him change the name of an attack that was repeatable instead of like, the common one from Outsiders.
Right.
I feel like that might push him over the edge. As it is, I think the way that the builds are, there's just like not enough consistent ways to start your turns. It's like you look at a deck like Phi, where like I think we could playing like at some point probably like 20 something starters in the deck, and then the Katsu deck, if you count what's it called, the Be Like Waters, you have like 9.
Well, yeah, and they still have to dip into yellow surgings.
Yeah.
Right. Like they still have the problem of they need to run yellows, which maybe they can't necessarily move away from just because of how strong like the bonds line is, and to move off that would mean they really got something cracked. But like for now, that is definitely the main problem. He's got like 9 solid starters, and if you don't see one, then your turn can end up being like Kadachi Descendant. Like, that's so bad.
All right.
I think that theoretical equipment of changing anything at will, like once per turn, is probably too good. It would have to have like a hefty cost on it, like 3 or something.
Well, we still haven't seen like the ninja-centric chest piece. So like maybe there's a world where that's a bit of a fix, like something with cost reduction of like a combo piece, and that will solve something somewhere. But it's hard to just say, oh, give him better arms because breaking scales is good. Give him better boots. Well, like Breeze Rider's good. Give him better head. Well, I don't know. His head options are pretty good. So
yeah. He's just like, I think just missing a little bit of consistency. I don't know like how they would add that. All right. Moving on.
Oh, wait. Actually, let me pitch something real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
What if the ninja chest piece says something like, at the end of your turn, if you have like any remaining resources, like save it on this card, you can use it next turn or whatever. Maybe that actually is the slight add, because a chess piece has to do something with resources, and there are awkward times in a Katsu deck where, because you have to pay for things mid-chain, like maybe a hit went through you weren't planning for, whatever, you can end up floating a resource where the Kadachi just never worked out.
Yeah.
And I could see that actually smoothing the play a ton. There's my quick fix. Boom.
Maybe. Yeah, well, we'll have to see if Katsu gets any cards in the future. All right. Let's talk Rune Blades. Or actually, let's talk Fi first, because Fi got 9th, I think.
Yeah.
Fi was playing like it was like a Kadachi build. Kind of similar, I think, in approach to what the Katsus are doing, where you're threatening Mask of Momentum a lot, and Lexi has a really hard time dealing with Mask of Momentum for the most part. And I don't know. I think your matchup into Dromai is probably maybe even slightly better than Katsu, because you have access to Phoenix Flame to give you, what's it called? To give you Mask of Momentum triggers. This guy was playing, I think, 9, like all the copies of Brand with Cinderclaw. And then,
it's great with the Kadachis.
Yeah, so where does Fi fit? I'm trying to convince Dan to do like an update on Fi. We've been getting a lot of requests.
I would assume worse than Katsu, but better than Azalea.
Do you think he's in the same tier of heroes as Katsu?
I would say, I don't know. I almost feel like we should bump Katsu up to an A and then put...
Like Katsu's the bottom of A?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, and then, I would say this is pretty good so far.
Yeah, I think what are Fi's major weaknesses and strengths? I think his strength is that he's very consistent. He's like kind of the opposite of Katsu, right? Where he's just like super consistent every turn.
He's consistent, but he's much less spiky. Is kind of the difference in like why Lexi can look a little bit better for Katsu than it does Fi.
Yeah.
Because Katsu can, like you didn't block this turn, I'm punishing. Whereas the Fi, if they don't have their like combo ender or something, well, you didn't block this turn, shoot. Well, where's the punish? So in terms of like consistently punishing a greedy deck, Katsu is better. But in terms of turn by turn, consistently presenting, Fi is better, right? And I think right now that favors Katsu, because you do need to have a better Lexi matchup, and Fi can still falter there.
Yeah, Fi is definitely one of those heroes where I think if you're just playing into like Icelanders and Bravos all day, I think I'd rather be playing Fi than on almost any other deck.
Yep.
But yeah, matching up into Lexi, I think, and trying to like balance these two kind of like ends of the meta spectrum, I think is pretty difficult. One plus for the ninjas is that I think they're probably like the best decks to play Warmongers in. Just because all their cards are just attacks.
Yeah,
and we've got James White in his most recent interview actually dropping knowledge bombs. He said that his pick as like one of the sleeper decks right now is just Ninja, because of their strength into Dromai, into Ranger, into playing Warmongers. Like he straight up said, expect more ninjas to kind of make their way into the metagame. And I think we saw that in Birmingham anyway, so it's not like a huge surprise. Yeah, so if he believes, I believe.
All right, sounds good. Let's talk Rune Blades. Briar, in our original tier list, I think we had her an A. I'm ready to put her in the pet projects tier.
No way. She's not.
She's not a pet projects deck.
No, she's not D. She's probably B or C.
I think she's worse than Azalea as a tournament choice. I don't know. It's kind of tough because like I played Briar for the 2 Battle Hardens, and I think for the first one, I think when everybody was playing, they were experimenting and trying out new decks. I felt pretty good about playing Briar because you're just like punishing for people who are like playing stuff that isn't fully tested. But I think if you're playing into like Lexis and Icelanders, even Dromai's like Briar is not like the greatest of times,
Yeah, if we're kind of starting to see the meta shake out by consistency of deck, now that we've got these larger events, which is almost like what's exactly happening, right? Then Briar did tank, like hardcore. Yeah, to see her in middle of the pack C, like, feels a little wrong because my perspective is so warped. Like, as a Leviah, like, screw that matchup. But but in terms of overall where she's gonna land, I think that's pretty fair. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think Viserai is probably like similar to Briar.
Is Viserai better or worse than Briar?
I think Viserai is better than Briar because Viserai has like a better Bravo and Dromai matchup than Briar does. If you're just concerned, right, with beating like the top decks, I think Viserai can have play into Iyslander, Bravo, and Dromai. It's just that the Lexi matchup is just super cursed. And I think if you're playing like a more setup style, then Warmongers shouldn't affect you as hard. Like, Warmongers is only bad if you're just like building your deck to just like try to go Mauvrion Skies attack every turn. If you're trying to, like set up Rune Chance, which you kind of need to do anyways into Iyslander, like, it's not that bad.
And based on that, wouldn't that make it B? Or is it just worse than Azalea?
You could convince me that he's B. I think he's certainly better than Briar right now.
Do we have the top 32 list from Birmingham? Because I do remember Jack Stoney. Shout out. Yeah, Jack. Love Jack. He made it to, what, like 12th or something?
Yeah, Jack got 12th. Jack got 12th.
So he bubbled out in theory. His record was there for top 8 with Viserai.
Yeah,
so.
He had like a pretty crazy. I remember seeing his tweet about the event, and he had like a pretty crazy, like, I guess, string of luck for gem pairings, where he only faced one Lexi the entire tournament, and he played against like 3 Dromais, like a couple of Bravos and such.
Ooh,
and like the gamut of the other decks. I think that the more Lexis that you play against, the tougher it is to want to be playing Viserai. But for example, let's say if everybody is just targeting Lexi and it's like very hostile for Lexi, I could see Viserai, surprising people, especially like at the tail end of events. I remember, I think Fino was telling me that Ian, one of the guys who bubbled, or I don't know if he bubbled, I actually don't think he bubbled, I think he went 7-4 or 8-4 or something, and he his tournament basically got ended by the fact that he played into Jack like close to the end of the tournament, and it's just not something that you expect at all, like playing into Viserai's late in the tournament. But if you do end up like there on Viserai, it's pretty scary for the other decks to play into.
Yeah, it actually could end up being like Viserai is the better submarine deck because you don't want the top. You don't want to see the Lexis. You want like the Lexis to kind of stay sitting at the top. But if everyone's, if everyone else is like taking their losses and you kind of clean up in those other matchups, then sure, like you don't even need to just rely on Vis high roll. He, like you said, like he's just baseline playable into a lot. So it hurts to see him that high because, good God, I don't want anyone to play this hero.
Yeah,
but it's fair. It's fair.
I have him as kind of my dark horse for like any tournaments that are coming up where I don't really expect him to make top 8, but if he does make top 8, I am not super surprised.
It may be a solid dark horse 9th.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something like that. Rounding out the Rune Blades, we got to talk about Vinset. So we had a pretty successful Vinset video. I think a lot of people were excited about it. Where do you think Vinset falls in the TC tier list?
Well, it depends, because isn't everyone now claiming they like broke Vinset, but there's just no proof yet? So without like tournament results for her, and even with like what we know internally, she's just not quite there still. And that has to put her low. Like D is probably appropriate, unfortunately. She's a great hero, very cool. Builds are still a little all over the place. So one like might rise, but it would have to still have a lot of things go right because she has the Runeblade problem worse than even Viserai or Briar.
Well, by the sounds of it, it should go in the pet project here.
No,
that sounds like
no.
But she's not my pet project. You got to change that.
Yeah.
Oh, sheesh. Okay.
I think Vincent is a deck that has some turns that are very powerful, and then mixed into that, there's turns that are just like almost non-functional. And when you're playing a long tournament, you definitely don't want to do that. You don't want to play a deck that where that's the case. You'd rather have like most of your turns be, you know, like kind of average.
Yep.
And I think that Vincent is just kind of struggling a little bit on the consistency department. That being said, I am playing Vincent for Blitz this weekend, I believe. So.
Oh yes, it's quite good there to just drop, you know, 1-card 8s.
Yeah. So
and be able to pay life to win the game. It is good.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think Vincent probably needs like at least another set of support before she can become really good. She has a lot of turns which are very strong, but just like overall doesn't like put it all together. So I think she's kind of like, I would, for any tournaments moving forward, I would probably not register Vincent if you are going there to try to win. But if you're going there to try to have a good time, you know, make a lot of rune chance and attack, and you don't want to play Viserai, then I don't think Vincent's a bad choice.
Does she actually have play into any of the top decks? Because like her hard loss is Bravo, as far as I know, of like what we're kind of looking at the tippy top.
Yeah, I think she has play into Dromai, and also has play into Iyslander. I think Vincent is like one of the few heroes that can run like AB4 Spell Void 2. You know,
I guess.
Sure. And it's like AB4 Spell Void 2 with armor. So even like Bullander like lists, and Vincent like wants to block like somewhat. I don't know. I think that Vincent has some play into some of the top decks, but ultimately is just like not nearly consistent enough to make like a really great tournament run.
Yeah, and even what we're finding out, like Lexi decks, if you're taking like Huska's Vincent, they can probably just fatigue you. Lexi's block really well.
Yeah,
it turns out.
One of our teammates' favorites, I think we have like one or two guys on the team who love Dash. Where do you think Dash kind of falls into all this?
Oh, that's a hard one. I feel like she's between C and B. I feel like she's kind of right there with Viserai.
You think that like Dash has like real chances at again into like some of the matchups? I think I think Dash Bravo. I think it was always like it felt like a skill matchup, like kind of 50-50 depending on like how the decks are built. The more defensive the Bravo is built, the better it is for Dash.
Yeah, I don't play Dash well. I have no experience with her anyway, so I really can't comment. But you know, the people who put in the time, who play that deck with literally like basically zero variance, just perform consistently, right? So she's got to be in there. Bottom of V is fine.
Yeah, and even in the I think the last format when you know Lexi and Olim were kind of at the top, I think Dave Lin made top 8 of a calling on Dash. So if Lexi is one of the top decks, I think that Dash should still theoretically be playable. So I guess we'll kind of leave that up to the Dash experts, and who knows, maybe Dash is going to be S tier when Bright Lights comes out.
Oh heck yeah! I should add Tech Loves then, so we could start to spec.
Yeah. Let's fill out the rest of what is probably like mid tier. Azuri is also kind of an interesting deck. I think she has like pretty polarizing matchups.
Oh yeah. She
beats up on Lexi pretty hard.
Yep, she beats up on Lexi, but then you look at Bravo and Dromai and like almost scoop. It's pretty tough. Even Ninja is like closer than you'd think, because they can just kind of play without Arsenal, and then you're just denied a lot of Water Disruption hits. She's weird. Like the right pilots and the right matchups are gonna play that deck in a very targeted way and like never lose their Lexi matchup, right?
Yeah.
But overall, she's just a bit of a tournament roulette deck. I feel like it's matchups. It really is.
Do you feel then that she's kind of in the same boat as like Viserai?
Probably a little better than Viserai because it's very easy to just say, I will beat every Lexi I see, and know that you'll see maybe like 3 rounds of Lexis, and then like, boom, you just are playing a tournament 3-0.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty solid place to be. So.
Yeah, and then, go ahead.
Yeah, I just agree with that. Like, she's a solid pick into most of these top decks. Like, Iyslander, I felt like could be like kind of a skill matchup, but depends on if it's the Bullander or not. Same thing. Bravo, you get rolled. So, I don't know. Like, a completely aggro Bravo is really weird into Azuri, depending on which build it is too. Like if it's like contract Azuri versus like the no contract cards. So that's also like a weird matchup. So, but I feel like because Lexi is considered the best deck, she's just essentially like a rogue deck. So, and most
in terms of the dark horse slot,
yeah,
I think she's right there. She's not more than that, but in a tad more consistent than like a Viserai might squeeze into a top 8.
Yeah, so I would keep her at B. That seems fun.
Arachne. I actually lost to one of these on Briar. On Lexi, at the last PTI event that I went to.
Oh, that was a great dude. Shout out. I can pull up his name in my gem pairings. I feel like I left a bad taste in his mouth because my game into him, I missed Blood Debt on a Dread Screamer, and then next turn rolled a 1 into a 1. And was realistically just like, well, that was a Levi game type of deal.
Yeah.
But he was a great dude. Let me pull it up so I can shout him out properly. That was Lucas Barding.
Yeah.
Who was playing Arachne and bubbled out of top 8 twice, didn't he? He had the right record, I'm pretty sure, on both the Battle Hardened and PTI event.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the bubble situation, but he was definitely near contention. I don't know, man. Like, I've heard that Arachne into Droma is just like an auto loss.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how Arachne plays into Iyslander.
That's supposed to be pretty unfavored for Arachne. Pretty sure.
And then Arachne is pretty good into Lexi, I believe. It's like hard for Lexi to, like set up powerful turns. And then the Arachne just like naturally fatigues with contract cards when they hit. And then into Bravo, I would have to imagine it's
Bravo favored.
Yeah, Bravo favored.
Very Bravo favored. Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know why you would play Arachne over Azuri right now. So it's just worse. But it's like, how much worse is it? Is it B or C? I don't think he's D. So
Lucas was playing Regicide, so difference made. It's not just Azuri without Shakedown. It was an Arachne with Regicide. But still, I think that was just like mostly people's inexperience at a hardcore event. I think getting into like the upper bracket with Arachne does not make the deck better. It probably means you just start losing more because most people understand like the ceiling of that deck and how it's really just not very high, and can just board in more cards and just never lose value and just not make mistakes and probably win. So I think I would even say like just top of D. I don't think that one result of one player kind of having like a decent run does anything for me. Like it's still just worse than Azuri.
Yeah, I think if the Rune Blades are really strong, then you can make a case that Arachne is actually pretty good into Rune Blade heroes. But with this current like set of heroes at the top, like Bravo, Dromai, and you said Iyslander was also like probably not a great matchup. So yeah, Arachne is probably pretty poorly positioned. Although still does kind of interesting things. I don't know if you can just like write off playing against them at tournaments, but maybe in the later rounds you shouldn't really be playing too many Arachnes.
I mean, the real trick is never single card block on a contract card because you're giving them 2 cards.
Yeah.
Like you need to just beat them by saying no blocks to like every contract
Mm-hmm.
and kind of play your game that way, and it's pretty hard to lose. Otherwise, you're just like turbo milling yourself because they don't care about the damage; they care about the cards.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Once you realize that, it's pretty hard to lose to Arachne, but
Dorinthia.
He's probably like a BC hero. I don't actually know how strong that fatigue version of her is, just worse Bravo, but
Oh, the Great Axe.
yeah, like is that a real deck? Is that a meme?
So I think Great Axe has kind of the same issues that just like playing Anathos Bravo has, where you're like not doing enough. You're a little bit more consistent, I guess. Like you're better into like probably against Bravo, like it would be fine. Playing Dorinthia into Iyslander, I think, is also it's like okay, actually. Like Dory into Dromai is also a skill. Like Dory has like okay matchups, I think, into all the decks.
yeah, you need to be an experienced pilot on it. But
Yeah.
I think Dory probably feels as a Dory main. Like I can't speak for it, but I feel like you should see this field as mostly a playable field.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Mostly a playable field.
Dory, I think, is traditionally really bad into Rune Blades because they just output too much damage. And like, if Rune Blades aren't very good, then Dory surely is pretty good. I don't know. I'm gonna go out on a limb and put her in the bottom of A.
Oh no.
Sheesh.
This is my
I-
spicy take for this video.
I'm gonna go out and say the top of B.
Okay, but
I
like
wouldn't
in this range, I just don't want to
Yeah,
put all the heroes in B.
Yeah, but that takes like the best pilot. Like if you're not like the best Dory, then you're whatever. It's just an outlier.
Yeah, but I think Dory in my mind has potential to be there. I suck ass at Dory, so it's not gonna be me probably. But
like generally her problems right now are that Bravo running like heavy D-Reacts is still a very wait, sorry, are we talking about Great Axe or Dawnblade? I forget.
I think
Both.
probably Dawnblade.
Both. Okay, yeah, but in my head it's more Dawnblade. The Great Axe thing is just like a Talishar meme if you're like bored at work, I think. But Dorinthia traditionally like is tough into the Bravos that are heavy D-React. Because they can just like weapon grind you for the majority of the game and just shut down like your punish. So and they're super happy, right? Like that kind of Bravo build will just park a D-React in Arsenal every turn. Every turn. It's very hard for the Dorinthia to kind of play around that consistently. So even though it's obviously like a worse old him, I think a Bravo that doesn't punt that matchup is still pretty tough for Dory. The skilled Dromai players also have game into Dory.
Yeah.
So that one is a bit of a skill matchup, but if we're assuming like kind of decks played perfectly, I think Dromai is still fine into Dory, but it's like more close, like 50-50. Dorinthia generally like wants to probably see the Katsu more than anything out of like what's top of field because Katsu is worse on blocks. There's a lot of 2 blocks in the deck.
Yeah.
And they're both decks that are just going to try to race in that matchup. And Dorinthia with like the fridge capabilities probably just gets there like a little more often than the Katsu, but I don't know this matchup at all.
Yeah.
I know that into Ice Lexi, it can be tough for the Dory as well because they're very resource intensive for what their turns need to be. So that can be awful. Like, you know, just play into a Icequake, play into a Frostbite, and Dory cannot win the race. So she also suffers a little bit from like the Warmonger splash that's coming from a lot of decks because she can no longer front pump with anything and just rely on reaction. So that can pretty consistently kind of shut down a counter style of turn. Like maybe it's a turn they can keep counters, but
could you theoretically make like a Dory deck that like didn't play the front pumps and then you just like play like mostly attack reactions and then you like the space lets you maybe like hybrid into Great Axe? I wonder.
I've seen some people try that. But the things you lose are like the Warrior's Valor and the Spoils of War. Those are, well, I guess you're not cutting them entirely. It'd be like a matchup thing. But those are great cards. We're not talking like Sharpened Steel, which is kind of like an in-between anyway.
Yeah.
I don't see her being consistently that good. Like one player might dark horse her close,
Yeah.
but I don't even see it being like a top 8 deck. It's more like a good player can land in the money pretty consistently and they'll have fun all day.
Yeah.
But I don't see it as like a top 8 deck. I would say like lower B.
So we were talking at the beginning about how Bravo kind of you can like block Lexi out on Bravo because of Fridge. And Dory actually has like a comparable Fridge with like Valiant Dynamo. You can actually put like I think Josh Lau told me about this. You can put like Centauri Saber plus
the new shield
plus the shield.
And it's the exact same armor as Bravo. It's
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, but except you actually have better armor than Bravo because you can like refresh your Dynamo theoretically if they let you like hit with the Centauri Saber. You can like attack with it twice.
Nuts. Let's see it. All right, that deck is A, but realistically, I still see her like below Dash still. I could not even put her that high.
She's probably there with Azuri. I definitely worse than Vi. So there we go.
Yeah, I'm putting her. Okay. I'm putting her in A.
All right.
No. In between Azuri and Viscerai, I'll concede to that. That's fine.
All right. Yeah, I don't like having all these. Dash is gonna have to move down to C.
No. Dash is definitely B. Just put everyone in a B.
No. We can't have everyone in B.
Yeah, everyone.
Somebody has to.
I don't think any of the other heroes are going to end up in B. Just looking at them.
Yeah. Okay.
So
maybe a lot of C and D.
All right, Reinar.
Mansat pet projects. We're almost there.
Reinar is solidly okay. It's probably like C.
Do you think? I think Reinar is probably pretty decent into Iyslander and Bravo.
Mm.
And
yes,
I think it's also pretty good into Dromai as well. It's just
as like you're saying it's B.
Dude.
As someone who I believe, I think there were like 2 people who won an R10 with Reinar last season. But anyway, it was a quick pivot to Reinar, and all I cared about learning was the relevant matchups. I'm going to learn how to beat Oldhim, beat Iyslander, beat Dromai, because those are within the deck's capabilities, and then just concede every other matchup.
Yep.
And it does work. And we're in kind of like a similar world where Bravo.
Yeah, it's like Bravo, Dromai, and Iyslander.
You could feasibly target. If that's your goal, and actually Reinar is pretty good into Azuri as well, which is kind of funny. So and Dash and
put him into A. Put him into A. Dude, like Reinar's bad into it's like a lot of these decks in the past have just been terrible into Rune Blades, right? And we're seeing a meta shape up where Rune Blades are just unplayable.
No, don't say unplayable. They're fine.
Or I'm putting them.
Oh my no!
There's too much shifting. God! Stop. Please put them back in the C.
I can't call Reinar A. I don't think he can realistically ever do that. He's worse than Azuri in terms of what you're trying to do with the deck in targeting not the best deck, because you also hard lose to Lexi, by the way. That is an unsolvable matchup.
Yeah.
So he's like a worse Azuri if you're trying to walk in and basically say I have free matchups. It's still a struggle for Reinar to win the free matchups because the deck has such bad card quality. It's within the deck's capabilities and game plan to win all those games, but it does not come easy. So I cannot put him better than Azuri. He might seem to make sense, but he's still so chock full of just nothing cards. Top of C is fine. Not unplayable though. Realistically, not unplayable. But
no, I'm putting him below. I think Azalea.
Okay, putting him above Briar. That is bold too. Actually.
No, above Azalea.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I think I mean, yeah, Reinar's card quality is pretty bad. What are his strengths? His weapon choices are pretty good, and he has pretty good armor. Because
he gets to roll scabs.
Yeah, you get to roll scabs. You have flush bag.
Ooh, yeah, flush bag. True. That does help the Runeblade match. In theory, it's still probably a hard loss, but you can pretend. You draw your blood rushes. You screw him on a flush bag. It's possible.
And he does have access to Reckless Swing, which is, I mean, one of the strongest things in Flesh and Blood that you can do is damage on your opponent's turn.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I think for larger tournaments, I probably wouldn't sub him just because how bad he is into Lexi. But I mean, if you get the Jack Stoney like gem run where you just like pair into like 3 Dromais, like 1 Lexi,
Mhm.
Bravos, Icelanders, whatever the other decks. Like you
Yeah.
could probably make a run.
Well, he's interesting because like the reason I did well with him at the Pro Tour was because I was just like walking the draft bracket, and then that meant that I was playing against like the guaranteed higher seeded opponents.
Yeah.
And like that was the Dromai Oldhim field.
Mhm.
So I was 1 game off of top 16, 2 games off of top 8, which is like insane with a deck that was that bad. But it is possible. The matchups are there. You need to just kind of like dodge the scrum.
Yeah.
So in like a Pro Tour style event where you don't lead with CC. Wait, did we lead with CC? I forget.
We're
Did we
leading
lead
with
draft?
CC and nationals. It's CC
Okay,
and
yeah.
then
So
draft.
he's less safe. He's less safe.
Yeah.
But if you lead with draft, I think he's actually fine. Because
Alright.
you figured like the best players are on the best decks.
Where does Bolton go?
Hmm.
In the
Probably
pet
like-
projects? In the D tier?
Well, there was the one Bolton that once again bubbled out of, I believe, both top 8s at the Chicago events. I watched his deck tech, and I don't know what I can believe out of his mouth anymore, because he said that his best matchup is Levia, and it's like not close, and that just makes 0 sense to me. That matchup is like,
That
it's a
makes sense
very
to
playable
me.
matchup for
Levia's
Levia.
in the pet
Very
projects.
playable.
Pet
Well,
projects
no,
tier.
not really. But Bolton actually has his spot in being very playable into Bravo. Dromai and Iyslander are tough, but I believe the build that this guy was rocking was very mid-rangey and was ready to play into Lexi
Sure.
more than like kind of your average build. So if you're accepting that like you do still have tough matchups, but you can try to build to beat like, 2 of the 3 tops, he's got to be okay, but I don't know why you would play him unless you're like a diehard, because he's not like, I don't know, he's just not super unique in any other capacity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to call him D because he is really cool, but yeah, he's realistically probably D. Oh well.
Kano.
Oh, you're letting me be the voice of reason on Bolton? Okay.
Yeah. I'm letting. Do you guys play Kano?
0%.
I
I played him
have
in Blitz.
played Kano.
Let's consult the win percentages. Into Azalea, 0%. 0% into Briar. 0% into Dromai.
Well, there are only 3
There are only
Kanos,
3
so this
Kanos. So.
sample size is bad.
Yes, very, very small sample size.
Yeah, look at that.
Losing
Look,
into Bravo.
Woo! Levia win rate though.
50-50 Icelander. Yeah. Winning into Levia.
Lexi though.
Into Lexi.
Fuck that Viscerai.
Winning into Lexi. I don't know. Kano is like, I think, kind
I
of
feel like
rough.
Kano's kind of with Reinar. Of
Yeah,
like,
yeah, he's the same vein.
Yeah, if you do a good run, Kano just blows up anybody.
Yeah.
At one of the battle hardens I played at, I got knocked out of top 8 because the Kano just went E-pot, kill me, and I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the crazy part about Kano, right? Is like, even if you are handily winning the game, you reach a certain point where the Kano just has to say, I'm going for it, even if they're not set up properly. And they still win a non-zero amount of those games.
Yeah.
So I just find them like overwhelmingly frustrating to play against, because they do just roll the dice. Like more so than Reinar, there's a certain point in the game where if they're not winning, like they just have to say, okay, like this is my shot.
Yeah.
And my God, like sometimes they roll that 6. But most of the time they don't, to be fair. Most of the time they don't. Into the slower matchups, you figure like pitch stacking is like a pretty easy win con for them. But the Bravos still can play probably slightly more aggressively than the Oldhims, just based on dominate alone, not even like what the Crushes are doing.
Yeah.
And so that probably makes him not have such a free matchup floating at the top, because that's what you could play Kano for, is just know the Oldhim was free if you played it well, and then like maybe coin flip the aggro. But I don't even think that's true on like making the the Bravo matchup free. And like there's the hard loss in the Dromai, and I have no idea what Iyslander Kano looks like.
It's like a skill matchup, I think. Like Kano has some counterplay. Basically how it goes is Iyslander has like consistently more powerful turns, but Kano has like the ability to just go off.
Yeah, no, he just feels coin flippy. I don't know why anyone other than like a diehard who's like really trying to still get a result under their belt would really play it. But that will mean he exists, and you shouldn't write off AB. I mean, for Iyslander alone, right? So maybe that forces him a little lower as well, because now you know AB is part of the metagame.
Yeah,
because Iyslander's there.
everybody should have AB, just like for Iyslander.
Mm.
So yeah, probably makes Kano a little
Bottom
bit
of
worse.
C. Bottom of C. Yep.
Riptide.
I think Riptide's actually more powerful than people think.
Yeah.
But it's still not great. It's like a C tier deck, realistically.
You think it's C tier? You think it's better than Arachne?
Well, the weird thing about it is like the red line version of it just gets rolled by the top 2 decks.
Yeah.
But then if you face anybody else, you can just roll them. It's like such
no, you don't beat Bravo either.
Sure.
And Dromai's hard, actually, for the red line too.
Yeah, I feel like Droma is pretty bad.
Yeah, but if you play the whole middle of the pack, it's sweet.
Yeah, the middle of the pack, you're having fun. But
yeah.
you face any top deck, you're like, you know what? I'm taking this loss so I can go have fun in the middle of the pack.
I think
it's strategic.
I think Riptide is a good for fun hero. You know what? What's kind of interesting about this game compared to a lot of the other games, I think like the 4 fun decks actually like match up like decent. Like you can have like real games, like real interesting games against like some decks, but usually like the decks that are when I say like a deck is like for fun, it's just because it doesn't consistently win against top decks.
Mm. Well, yeah, in this game, if you're playing in like the for fun category, then your decks aren't good enough to like make the game super short, so you can actually play Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
And it turns out that's pretty fun.
Yeah, everybody else is just trying not to play Flesh and Blood.
For real.
Prism. Dino gave his review on Prism in his video. I think she's pet project level.
Yeah, I think she's pet project, and I think there is a metagame that does theoretically exist where she's really good, but we're not in it, so she should. Like, if everyone stops playing Paupers and it becomes a mid-range game for some reason, then she's great. Like, 2-card 11s are fantastic.
I think even in a world where people play like a relatively like a reasonable number of Paupers, like if everyone has like 9 to 12 Paupers, I think that Prism could still function decently. It's just like I think the combination of I think Dromai Living Legends, I'm willing to give Prism a revisit, but as of now, I don't think that Prism can beat the card Rake the Embers.
Yeah, Fino keeps saying that. Yes.
Yeah.
For now, like it's a similar thing of in the middle of the pack, she probably gets like some real games, but against the top deck, she doesn't get real games, and that's tough. Well, no, you probably can beat like Iyslander, right? That's probably fine.
Yeah, Lexi's also not terrible for Prism.
Also, like we haven't really figured out the best builds of her, so even saying that Prism has a good matchup in Iyslander isn't even necessarily true, because if you're playing like the Angel build, that probably just folds to Iyslander.
Okay.
Like 1 Frostbite. Oh, nice 4-card and idiot.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if the pet project tier is supposed to be F, sure, if you can be the sole F. Can we move Bolton above Arachne, please? This is hurting me.
I think Bolton and Riptide should both be C, but
Yeah, like Bolton can be bottom of C.
I like this is like a nice little bell curve.
Well, we haven't put Levia in S yet, so that is gonna throw things.
I think are we talking about Levia?
Levia?
Levia.
You mean Levia? You mean?
Let's have
canonically Levia. Yes. Literally written in the script by James White and the team on how to pronounce Levia in the teaser video that went out. It is Levia. Just like I'm gonna reiterate. She realistically is feeling worse and worse the more games that we play against like the refined top.
Yeah.
Which sucks because early days, like she came out of the gate feeling very powerful. But I think it's really up to the opponents to learn the matchup and play it better. And the more they learn about the matchup, the less agency Levia gets. And that is scary because she already has very unworkable hands every once in a while. And if your opponent puts you in positions because they know to put you in like unworkable graveyard states, or to just like not be too afraid of a 4-card hand, like, and not take your endless maw 2-card 9, like not let you land the good efficiency trades. She's much worse. Not a bad deck, and I still think the good Leviah pilots are going to beat the variants and still play her consistently, but I don't think she can actually be A anymore. It's like, it's top of B in my heart, I think, but other people would probably push her lower down.
I think she's probably in the top of B range. You know what Leviah is like? Leviah is like driving a sports car with like a kind of messed up engine.
Sure.
That's like my metaphor. Where like on a good day, she's just like you're just zooming. You're doing like great things. You have like what's it, like 3-card 13s or whatever.
Yep.
Sometimes like with a beast within, it's like a 2-card whatever, like 2-card 13 potentially even. And then you draw hands, and then it's like now you gotta take the card to the shop, and it's just like I don't know. She like I feel like if you submit Leviah at one of these larger tournaments, you're playing against your opponents, and you're also like playing against yourself in a way where a lot of the other decks don't have to fight against themselves so hard. And I mean, I guess it's like part of the balance for the class. I think if Leviah was super consistent, then she would probably be just like undoubtedly S tier, right?
Yep. I mean, she still starts the game as these like sips are dubbed, right? With undoubtedly like probably the most powerful stuff in the game. Like, I mean, James White did mention that Voltaire is probably the most powerful weapon in CC right now. I think everyone knows that anyway. But
yeah,
regardless of like counting the weapon, the equipment suite, and then like the attached demi hero, if you control that flip and you know that you're playing a game with full value Husk, full value Flesh Bag, full value demi hero, that full value Scabs, that is insane. Insane the amount of value you just start the game with. The problem is navigating her really bad turns, navigating the low variance that can also come up.
Yeah.
There's the uncontrollable aspect of that makes her suffer in the longer events. Like we saw at the calling recently, when the Leviah was playing, I think it was like round 6 or something, undefeated on stream.
Yeah.
They took a greedy line, like straight up. I don't think they needed to roll there ever, but they went for the roll and just instant lost the game to a 1 into a 1. And that is going to happen a non-zero amount of times. And the more often you roll, the more often it can happen. And in a longer event, most players are going to roll more, you would think. And that opens you up to taking more insane losses to just your own deck crapping out. I tend to play like tighter and tighter as the tournament goes on because I have bubbled on so many like last round losses to like I didn't draw a way to turn off Blood Debt. Those you can't mitigate, but what you can at least mitigate is like the 1 into a 1 loss.
Ethan, scare money don't make money.
Well, not decent money. I've cashed out on Leviah 3 times now at the big events. It's okay. It's done me okay. And we're about to top with Nats on Leviah anyway, so okay. I think it'll be fine. But she legitimately just can't ignore how your opponent plays into you. She's very much tied to how your opponent interacts, even on like as early as turn 1. Are they swinging? Do they let you get graveyard fill? Do they take the mid game pivot of, oh hey, I was an aggro deck for like the first 5 turns, but you're at 1 card in graveyard? Block Endless Maw, pass. Like whoa, like
yeah.
Stop, please, play the game with me. Because if they play and just are in tune with where Levi's openings are, my God, she loses her edge. And I've always run hot on that edge. Not rolled hot on like the Scabs angle, but rolled hot on the edge of people don't play perfectly into her. And I don't think you can count on that anymore at all. So realistically, like middle of the pack or even bottom of B, but I want her top of B still. I believe. I
think she's probably better than I actually think she's better than some of the other heroes. Maybe like I think her and Azuri are like the same class. They're like kind of the polar opposites, where Azuri is like pretty consistent but has not the best like matchup spreads. and Leviah has like pretty good matchup spreads, but is like inconsistent.
Yep, that's exactly right. She basically looks at every matchup and can at least make it playable. The only real unplayable matchup tends to be Kano. If your deck's just not built with enough like early game graveyard fill, then you just can't play that game. But basically any other matchup you can play, and it's, get a little lucky, then you'll win. Play consistently into a good matchup, you'll win. She has a unique angle on that for sure.
All right. How do you think we're looking overall on this tier list? Is there any adjustments that we should make? Is the B tier too large?
No, the B tier is not large enough.
I mean, I think Flesh and Blood is just seeing what a huge hero format looks like. I mean, we had like the Oldhim hit LL, right? But we're about to see a set drop, in theory, like another 2 to 3 adult heroes, I think.
Yeah.
And there's only one hero really on the line to LL before then, which is Briar. I assume she will, but we're seeing just like the kind of the reduction of that the LL point system.
How close
kind of
is
build up
Iyslander?
now. She's like 770.
Okay.
She won't rotate.
She could LL before Briar. Let's be real. No one's gonna play Briar. Fine.
Post Nat season, if Briar doesn't LL, then like sure, I'm willing to take that bet. But in the Nats point pool alone, I don't think Iyslander gets there still, because the only one worth 100 is US Nats.
Mm-hmm.
I think the rest are like 10.
There's also a calling, right, with US Nats.
Oh, that's true. That's true. There is a calling coming up, and then the next LL rotation is like right before Bright Lights.
Yeah, so theoretically,
maybe it's possible.
So if Iyslander just wins everything, we can get her out.
Yeah, great.
Mm.
Oh, that would fuck the meta up so hard.
Where is Lexi actually in terms of points?
Lexi's not that high, I don't think. Because Lexi hasn't,
like so
Lexi hasn't like really won anything. She's won like pro quests.
Yeah, she's really like a RTN pro quest season type of deck.
Yeah,
where she'll just rack up a bunch of points, but the tournament wins evade her because you don't get to really like walk top 8 brackets. It's good players, it's good matchups for them.
Yeah. So I don't know. Overall, I think it'll be pretty interesting to see how this meta shakes out. I think if Lexi kind of gets dethroned in the future, so like when we'll see the next couple of Battle Hardens take place, if Lexi kind of gets knocked down, then there's a lot of heroes that I could see moving up. But I think she's kind of just like keeping the whole format the way it is, and we're seeing other decks kind of trying to take on the challenge. So I don't know, that's kind of our thoughts. Let us know what you think in the comments. If you stuck around for this long, join our Discord. I'll include a link if you want to get some draft practice in before nationals. And see you guys on the next video. You guys have any last words before we close off?
You should just change that tier to Pheno's pet projects. We can call it good.
Ooh. I think you're right. I think Pheno's the new Mansant.
Damn right.
All right. This is the thumbnail. It's gonna be zoomed in. All right.
Perfect.
See you guys on the next one.
Bye-bye.